Big Sports Live today. I got a special guest with me, Mr. George Privott, Coach George Privott of the Northampton Jaguars. How you doing this morning, Coach?
Doing fine. How about you?
I'm doing good. I see you. Like you posted up in the gym right there. That don't look like your domain.
Yeah,
You sure you in the right place?
yeah. I'm in the gym. Had to come out here. I got a couple meetings going on this morning as well, so I decided to stop by and just do it here in the gym before I got started with my meetings.
Okay, I appreciate you. I promise I won't keep you long. I know you're probably the business guy in Northampton.
Right.
Well, Coach, I know you coming off that big run last season. If you could just sort of detail how was it like being able to take Northampton, who hasn't been that far into the states in about 15 years, what was it like being able to take that group of guys to the state championship last year?
It was a great experience. I'm glad that that group could finally make it. We had some teams that I felt that were more talented before them that could have made it. It's just they lacked discipline. This team was a little bit special because they had a little bit more discipline, and that got them over the hump. Even though they weren't less talented as those previous teams, the discipline was what helped us get over that third round hump and finally get past the fourth round and make it to the state championship and experience that game.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I know I talked to a lot of your players, and they actually felt like they weren't the most talented team that has come out of Northampton recently, but they always look to say that discipline was what really took them. So I think it was interesting to hear you say that because I haven't actually, heard that from you or from any other coaching staff, just that they've said that.
Right, and that was the key. And we preached that with the previous teams that we had to have discipline. Losing the third round in 2018 to Rosewood at home, I know that was a team that we were looking so far ahead to making it to the state championship that we lacked the discipline to get there and pretty much overlooked them and made some key mistakes in that game, which cost us a trip which I believe we would have made it to the state championship. But this team this past year, they stuck with it and were disciplined enough to do the little things that we asked them to do to get us over that hump.
Now, you talk about teams sticking with it. So how crucial was it that when you all played North Edgecombe during the regular season and you sort of lost the rights to the conference championship, how important was that to you all in terms of just alleviating pressure, just being able to take a step back, breathe and say, okay, this is what we have to do going forward, and just taking the pressure off of having this sort of very glorious season that you're going to sweep all the way through to the state championship?
Right, and I say that time and time again. You look at the two previous seasons where we won the conference. We were number one seed in the East, got the first round bye, and basically felt like we were going to make it to the state championship. But I guess the pressures of having that number one seed stamping on our back, people were coming after us. We overlooked it and just thought because we were number one, we had the rights to get there, and other teams proved us otherwise, that we didn't get there. And having to go in as a number 4 seed, we still got a first round bye, but having that pressure off of being the number 1 seed and the conference champion, I would have traded it all 2 years ago with those teams just to be able to have the same run. But to have that pressure off and just sit back and play the spoiler role, it felt good instead of being top dog and having everybody gunning for you.
Right, but you spoke on people coming after you, chasing you, but it seemed like Zion Kendall and Eric Robinson had people chasing after them all year. You can talk about just how important they were and just how grateful you are for them being able to make it transition to the next level and do it so well that they're actually teammates at the next level.
Right. Those two were really key in our success, being that they both started and played as sophomores on those two previous teams that I spoke of. And the experience that they had, and they knew what it took to get there because they endured what those other two teams had went through, losing in the third round the 2 previous seasons. So Eric was just a great overall safety. He knew how to get the defense in position to do what we need to do in our scheme. And Zion's field presence and his football IQ is just unbelievable. And I'll say it time and time again, teams would look at him and you look out there and see this little bitty kid and think you're going to throw at him, and he'd bait you right into throwing balls and he'd pick them off, or he can defend it well. And then his first year running the option, he'd always tell me he knew how to run it and he could do this and do that. I mean, some kids just hype themselves up, and you just like, whatever. But he could actually do it. His very first snap, we scrimmaged over at North Pitt this past summer. Very first snap, he took a 40 yards for an option keep and scored off of it. And so that basically, I had another kid in mind that I was going to start at quarterback, but after seeing his presence at quarterback and how he read the option and the adjustment he made, there was no doubt in my mind that he was going to be our quarterback.
Now, you spoke on a kid that you weren't sure about playing quarterback, but now potentially looking at this year, I'm not a big guy on what is, but right now that's the game we have to play. So without Zion this year, I know you're probably looking at Mr. Kwame Pitt coming into this year if we potentially play.
Right, if we play. Kwame has expressed that he'd like to play receiver. And I've always been a big believer in if a kid just not comfortable in a position, don't force him to play it. So we'll probably move him to receiver. Or he talked about playing some defense as well. So if that's where he's feeling more comfortable, I have no problem with moving him there rather than force him to do something he doesn't want to do. We have another kid that played some quarterback on JV for us, and he actually came up during the playoffs and right at the end of the season to play some outside linebacker for us, and that's Jaquante Fauntleroy. And more than likely right now, if we were to start right now, I'd be training him as our quarterback. And the only thing that, this pandemic, I know everybody wants to stay safe. I want everybody to be safe. It has really put us in a bind because I'm used to early April starting to train my quarterbacks to get them ready for August. And we had no April, no spring, no summer. And if we do play, we're going to start late. Hopefully we'll start late. That'll give me some time to work with him. He has had some training as far as our wishbone offense goes, which is not that hard. That's kind of simple. But as complex as my triple option is, I have to have a lot of time with him, especially the first year quarterback, and I'm going to turn him loose with it. So it's a little bit different.
Now, with the possibility of us coming back and playing football, I know that the triple option, even though it is sort of a simpler offense, it still has its complex with the different backs and so on. But how would you sort of look forward? Would you look forward into maybe integrating into more of a passing offense? I know that's not your traditional, you always do domain, but with newer players coming in, do you think this is a time for you all to sort of maybe change the tradition of what you guys are doing on offense, especially with so many seniors clearing out and so many new guys that you have coming in?
Right. I thought about it, and I've always been one to run my offense dependent upon my players. Back in 2011, I did run pretty much all spread because of the caliber of athletes I had. But as you said, I'm a run first type-minded coach, so we're going to try to run it first. If we can't run it, then it's simple. Again, I say they took the summer away from us, so all summer long we 7-on-7. We do our passing attack all summer. So need be, we always have it on the back burner if we need it. With that being said, and we had no summer and no 7-on-7, we haven't even had a passing attack. So whatever they decide that we'll do, if we play or don't play, we don't play until spring. It's still going to be a starter from scratch to see what our strengths and weaknesses are. But first and foremost, I'm going to try to pound the ground.
Now, with that being said, you spoke on 7-on-7, but coming up, this year a lot of people are sort of looking a little bit further down south to North Edgecombe to actually maybe take the tall runner. So how would you feel about your team this year coming into conference play, especially with so many teams around the area just rebuilding, except for maybe you all who still have some of your roster and North Edgecombe who still have some of their roster?
Right. And not to overlook anybody in the conference, but it usually comes down to us too. And I'm sure Coach Miller will have those guys ready to play, and he'll reload and have some. I know he has a couple returners. I don't know his name, but at number 4 at middle backer, I know he's returning. He made some noise last year. But as far as everybody returning, we'll just still stick to what we do. First and foremost, our goal would be to try to win the conference championship. If we do, we win it. If not, we'll just take the mindset that we took last year where, okay, now that it's out the way and that pressure's off, we can go just focus on playing football and not worry about a trophy or a conference title. I mean, everybody wants a conference title, but if you don't get it, oh well, we still have, at the end of the day, we still got to play football. We don't worry about Coach of the Year and all that, all those other distractions. I mean, I've gotten Coach of the Year before. I got those plaques in my office in the drawer. It doesn't mean anything to me. And like I tell the guys, I mean, it's a great accomplishment, but at the end of the day, I want a trophy I can put on my finger and show that off everywhere instead of a plaque on the wall. So, I mean, the guys know, they know my mindset when it comes to football and what our goals are. Like I said, first and foremost, conference championship. After that, because every year I'll tell them, and even if we have an abbreviated schedule, we always say that the season is broken up in 3 parts. We got non-conference, conference, and then postseason. So that's how we look at it. So we just try to get out of the postseason. I mean, the preseason with a better record than we did the year before. And I think the last 2 years we came out 4-1. And then go through the conference. 2 years ago we came out 6-0. Last year we came out 6-1. So we just try to improve every year on the season and just to see where we go from what we end up at the end of each part of the season.
Right. And we sort of talked on what the regular season looked like, but tying into the preseason and tying into the postseason. Preseason, first of all, I know you guys have pretty much a similar schedule to what previous years. So how do you sort of get this schedule in time with your kids, knowing that it might just be so close and knowing that you're going to play teams who are pretty strong in this area, including the likes of Runner Rapids High School, who y'all have seen multiple years in a row?
Right, and that's one of the concerns with Runner Rapids this year is knowing that they do have a new head coach. I understand he's a former player, so he may come in with a system that he played in that's traditional Runner Rapids, balance attack with passing and throwing, or he may come in with something else. It's always the unknown that you don't know about and that you have to prepare for. And then, too, with the regular season, if we didn't have this pandemic going on, we would get film on them from a scrimmage or something, so we can get something to scout off of. Most people already know what we're gonna do. We're gonna do the same thing that we've been doing. So it's no big change for us. But having a team with a new coach or a change in the personnel, well, not the personnel, but the coaching staff, it's always a difference preparing for them rather than the other teams that we still have on the schedule that I know the coaches are still in place and they're going to stick to what they do mostly.
Now, since that was preseason, regular season, in terms of the postseason, more of a mental aspect, how do you get these guys to transition away from that sort of sense of entitlement? Because knowingly or unknowingly, knowing that Northampton has pretty much dominated the Tarona over the last several years and made consistent deep runs into the playoffs, how do you have these guys change their mindset and not get that sense of entitlement that, oh, we're Northampton, or not having that presence that when they come in, it's going to be automatically a Northampton win?
Well, one thing we do is with playing the same schedule year in, year out with your conference, like I said previously, most times you know what teams are going to do. So you can prepare for them and year in and year out because they're going to basically do the same thing. Going into the playoffs, it's always an excitement to play new teams and scout them. So when you're going to play a new team, especially if you meet a team that you haven't played before, it's always an excitement of scouting and seeing new things and catching new wrinkles and being able to, especially with us having first round buys the last 3 years, we get to go out and see them most times play in the first round. So we get to see some of their strengths and weaknesses firsthand rather than see it on film. A lot of times it helps to see a team live rather than seeing it on film because sometimes film doesn't capture everything that you need to see. Especially some of the things that I look at if I'm at a live game is on the sideline. Maybe if a player messed up or something, he comes off and coach gets on him or something, seeing how he reacts to that adversity and whether he handles it well and goes back in and adjusts, or he throws a tantrum and just gets all out of the game. If he does throw a tantrum or something, that's a kid that I'll key on and try to frustrate him to get him out of his game, and it disrupts the whole defense. So it's a lot of things that I look for, other than just the X's and O's when attacking a team. And a lot of times, with our option attack, we can pretty much dictate what you do on defense. A lot of times teams try to come in and try to stop their option, and you heard time and time again, you can't stop it, you can hope to contain it. You can slow it down, but eventually it'll work. So we try to dictate to the defense what they can and cannot do with our offense, especially if we have everybody healthy. And that was a major part of what went on this year. We didn't have everybody healthy at one point, but once we got back healthy, we pretty much dictate how you play and what we want you to do. And the same thing with our defense. Our defense pretty much controls what you can and cannot do, because you'll see one scheme and try to attack that scheme, and the whole time it's another scheme that you're not really seeing that you play right into our hands. So postseason is always exciting just to see new teams.
And besides the postseason, I know one topic that we didn't really talk about that you just sort of touched on was the defense. And I know coming up this year, it's going to probably have a lot of new faces on that. So how do we sort of just dictate, well, how do you sort of dictate what the defense is going to look like, what schemes you're going to run, and how to implement these new guys into a defensive system where you guys switch schemes a lot, have different things going on the defense to make sure that they're comfortable, make sure that they're able to play, especially if we're going to have such a short time to transition into the season, if we do even have a football season this year.
Right. Since you say a short time, even if we do have a short time, that's one of the advantages that we have for our defense. Our defense is not complicated. It may look complicated to a lot of people because it looks like we're doing a lot of things. It's so simple. I can teach the entire defense to 11 new guys in probably 15 minutes or less. It's just gap control, assignment football. If you know where to go and know what the call is, that's all you need. And basically our thing is do your job. So once you understand your key and what you have to do according to the strength call, just do your job and go where you're supposed to go, and it dictates. Everybody feeds off everybody else. So if one person is wrong, because a lot of times game time, real speed, I'm looking at the field and I'll see a hole break open or a back break off a big run. I can tell you right then who went the wrong way or who didn't fill that gap or who made the wrong read according to how the back broke and where he went through. So our defense is not that complicated. It's complicated to other people. We may have in total, I would say, 6 blitzes off of our base defense. Out of those 6, per season, I might call 3 of them all season long, if that many, because it's just a natural pressure defense that just causes natural pressure if people do what they're supposed to do. And like I said, going back to the discipline thing, our kids this past season were disciplined when we were healthy, and that's what made a difference in the whole thing. And the analogy that one of my college coaches gave me one time was defense is simple because like this gym, defense is just destructive. If I want to tear this gym down, I come in with a wrecking ball, knock it down in a couple minutes. But offense is like building it, so it'd take me months to build this gym. So that's why we key so much on getting our offense built up first, because it takes time. When our defense, we can just snap it and throw it right in no time. Usually, if we were on a normal schedule and we were starting up on August 1st, probably the first four, maybe 5 days will be all offense. We wouldn't even touch defense. We probably do defense on like the 7th day. And that'll only be probably 30 or 45 minutes. Then we'll go right back to offense. That's how simple it is.
Okay, Coach. Well, it's sort of refreshing to hear how simple you're keeping the game, especially in such a time where football is getting even more complex and complex. So with that being said, I know I got to throw you one slight thing in there, man. Out of all the Northampton teams that you have coached of recent, right, what is the best team? Because you done had some great teams, especially in this last stretch, probably these last 4 years. So right, you could just pinpoint one team that you thought was the best team, or one team that you actually thought, oh, this is a team that was supposed to get the ring, but it just didn't pan out that way.
I would go back and say, in my the players from this past season, they argued me down the other day. Well, not the other day, but a couple months about it. Especially Zion. You can't win an argument with Zion. But the 2012 the 2012 season when we first consolidated. That team that had Keon Crossing at quarterback. We had Brian Lasseter at tailback. We had so many talented players on that team. The only setback was we were, I think, like 535 students in the school, so we had to go in the 1AA bracket. And so we went through. I think we played Riverside in the first round, upset Goldsboro in the second round, and ran into Southwest Onslow in the third round, which ended up being the state champions that year. Had we gone small 1A, I think we had a chance. We actually, the second game of that season, we were still trying to fill ourselves out. We ran into Plymouth. We played them non-conference. They beat us up pretty bad. I believe it was 32-2 they beat us. And we were trying to get back to them. We've been trying to get back to Plymouth for years before they became Washington County. But I think, and they actually went to the state championship that year. They won it also. But we wanted a shot at them again once we had gotten ourselves together. But the 2012 team, I would say, would have been the best team that I've coached here so far.
Okay, I'm gonna just try to keep that one on the wraps, because I know when Zion, maybe Roots get ahead of that, you might want to hear the end of that one.
Right.
All right, thank you so much, Coach, for taking time out your day to speak to us, man.